happening. Anywho, I wanted to start with a check-in. 2 words to describe how you're feeling right now. This is something I just learned Brene Brown does with her team. Because we're often feeling 2 things at once. 1 word might not be enough to describe what we're thinking, or feeling rather. I'm feeling very frustrated. I'm feeling very frustrated with technology, and I'm feeling very grateful that I have at least one person here with me in a format where they can hear me speaking. So yes, at once I can feel frustrated and grateful for technology. How are you feeling, dear one? I would love to know. 2 feelings, minimum. Because we are all a myriad of multifaceted experiences at once, are we not? Oh my goodness. I hate when things don't go perfectly. All right. Tired and fulfilled. That's lovely. I like those words going together, because now we're turning toward rest and nourishment, the end of the day. I'm gonna light a candle. If you would like to join me, please feel free. As long as the candle is burning, we are here in community. We are learning about self-love. We are practicing self-compassion. We are showing up vulnerably and courageously. Yeah, I'm feeling that dissipation of the stress. Oh, Claire's here. Yay! Sorry about that, Claire. Very glad you're here. We were just starting with a check-in. What 2 feelings are you feeling? Micah said tired and fulfilled. I said grateful for and frustrated with technology. 2 feelings you're feeling. We would love to hear. And let's just kick it off with a really short body scan, check-in. We want to be present for tonight, because tonight's topic is setting boundaries with technology. And we're going to talk about all the reasons why we're addicted, why we reach for it, whatever it is. Maybe if tech isn't your issue, insert something else, but it can bring up a lot of fear, like don't take away the thing that I'm clinging to. So we need to really ground and be present. Claire says stress and happy. Yeah, isn't it interesting? Those 2 can go together. They can coexist. All right, so just dropping into the body, maybe putting a hand on the heart, closing the eyes, deep breath in, open mouth, exhale. Again, in. One more. Letting everything drop down, including your awareness, including your attention. What's here in the body? Can you bow to it? How does it respond? Tell your nervous system it's okay. I'm here. You can rest. You can open. Presence is safe. Breath is safe. I am safe. I care about self-love. I am worthy of this time I've set aside for myself. Feeling into the body again, noticing if there's any more relaxation, softening, arrival. Committing to being present with the breath for the next 45 minutes or so. One more deep breath in. Let it go. Great work, dear ones. Even Luna's over here sighing and growling. She's here with us. Blinking the eyes open. All right, so it's kind of a heavy topic and kind of a tender topic for me. So let's make it light and let's make it fun, because otherwise it's hard to be here. It's hard to be with it. Talking about loving ourselves through our technology boundaries. So who has seen The Social Dilemma? I just watched it on Sunday night and everyone's talking about it. It's a Netflix documentary about our tech addiction, about big tech business and how it's ravaging the world, and like all of the social implications and all the data. And it's quite sensational and unsettling, but I think that's because it's truth, and because if you don't feel unsettled and a bit terrified and angry after watching it, then you're maybe not so allowing yourself to feel the truth of these things. You know, the mental health costs of social media and the way it's engineered. So if you haven't seen it yet, I recommend it for sure. But I recommend watching it with someone you love, you know, or at least discussing it, you know, having it like set up to where you're watching it at the same time, and then maybe you discuss it later and come up with really clear-cut actions. For me, I'm an Aries. That's the only way I can take in overwhelming things, is like through, you know, real intention of how am I going to get my act together and what can I do. So a lot of people defend social media and phone usage by saying, you know, it's just a tool, and it, you know, the important thing is how you use it. And I've been guilty of saying this, and what this film really showed me was the technology is not the tool. We are the tool. We are the product. Our attention and the length of time that our eyeballs are on the screen is the product that is being bought and sold and traded and vied for. So your very awareness is the product. Your very attention. And the thing that keeps you from presence. The key thing that keeps you from your values, your life that's right here, your loved ones. What really matters to you is the product. And it reframed it in a way that just, it really spoke to me as a mindfulness teacher and coach. And I had horrible insomnia after watching it. John and I started to make a plan for how we want to raise our kids after watching it. So, there's good and bad. There's hard and there's, productive from watching it. But, in case you don't know, these corporations like Facebook, which owns Instagram, and WhatsApp, and Twitter, it doesn't own Twitter, but Twitter as well, they have the GDP of countries, of governments, but they're not regulated and they're not really taxed properly, and they have the power to topple governments and world orders and sow discord, and it's been studied and proven that they lead to the increase of our political polarization. So if you're looking around and thinking like, how has the world gotten so crazy and why don't people believe the truth anymore? It's because of social media directly. And I think there's also, and I wanted to say it's been proven that they spread misinformation faster than truth. And they being the algorithms. These are not human things. This is artificial intelligence. It's machine learning. And we created it, humans created it, but it's sort of out of our hands to a certain degree already with the lack of regulation, and so it's very unsettling. But I think we could still make a change, and I'm going to talk about advocating for that in a bit. But the change starts with us from a self-love perspective, which is what my work is about. The change starts with us. We're voting with our awareness and our attention. And the irony is not lost on me that I go live every week for SelfLove Sermon. As an online business owner, I don't know how to navigate outside the bounds of social media and how to sell ethically on social media. And it's something I'm thinking about. And it's quite literally keeping me up at night. So if I figure that out, I'll let you know. But it was so funny because we were sitting there watching it, and my husband turns to me and he's like, well, this just makes me so happy that I'm not really on social media. And I just started cracking up because he felt all high and mighty that he never gets on Facebook and rarely checks Instagram, has never posted. And I was like, well, what do you call the news apps that you're always checking? What do you call Reddit or fantasy football? It's all social media, And, this isn't to say that it's bad or we should feel ashamed. I think the social component is the part that's really human and really gets to our pack animal status, our need for belonging and connection. And it's the part that's been used against us and made into an addiction, just as a result of our brain's evolution. And that makes it really dark and something I can't really look away from anymore. Yeah, so I thought that was funny. There are many social medias, and the news absolutely counts. And it's almost more justifiable to be like, well, I'm just getting informed, But it has its limits, and I wrote a post and did a self-love sermon a few weeks ago on curbing your news intake, and I highly recommend that if you haven't seen or listened to it yet. It's so important right now. But the film also taught me that the average person spends 4 hours a day on their device, but they believe that they spend 2. Yeah, device being phone. Obviously, we spend way more in front of the TV and in front of computer when you add it all up. And this is something I'm really interested in as someone that's passionate about mental health and getting people to meditate and ground and be outside. And so it kind of sums up everything I've been thinking about lately in my coaching work which is that something can be not your fault and your responsibility. Because so often we don't want to look at what we could be empowered to change, because we're afraid that if we admit responsibility, we're admitting fault. Do you know what I mean? And it's just not true. We don't need to go into that shame space, especially when it comes to social media, right? We're up against these billionaires. We're up against armies of artificial intelligences. Like, we're up against a lot of rich people who are hell-bent on getting richer off our attention. So, like, that's the overwhelming part. But also the, like, it's not my fault part. You know, we're all meat going into the meat grinder, like, from an awareness standpoint. So let's just get angry about it. Don't get ashamed about it. And you're not alone in your tech addiction. My God. I mean, just to have some understanding of why we do it, and then to have compassion around it. And then we're going to get into creating our own boundaries. So grab your journal, I should say, if you don't already have it nearby, because you're going to need it. We're going to, like, actually make a plan. So why do we reach for John's home? Luna's growling. Why do we reach for our phones? Why do we reach for social media? Why do we reach for these technologies? Boredom? We're looking for solutions or answers. Have you noticed, like, how uncomfortable it is to not know the answer to a question, or to have the facts straight, or to be afraid you don't have the facts straight? That's because of, like, Google and, you know, these search engines. I mean, I found myself second guessing things that I know, like when I'm making a meal and I've made it 100 times, but it's like I can't retain it, or I don't have confidence in it, because I need to just Google it and double check that I've got, you know, the right temperature and the right time. And they actually say that young people are taking fewer risks than ever and are entering fewer romantic relationships, are getting their driver's license later. Like, all of this is tied up in sort of a distrust and a lack of confidence in our own knowing, our own intuition, or our own, like, knowledge, what we've learned. Like, that's sad to me. We also reach for it out of loneliness. You know, we are pack animals. We evolved to care deeply about belonging. We did not evolve to care about what thousands upon thousands of people think about us, or to compare ourselves with thousands of people. There's a great episode of Armchair Expert with Dak Shepard where he interviews his wife, Kristen Bell, and she just sums this up so eloquently. You know, like, we weren't evolved to have to be, like, for me, like, to be, like, the best life coach in the world. It was just supposed to be, I was the life coach for my small community of, like, 50 people. And I was just the person that they went to. And then there was someone else we went to for other things. But now, because of the internet, it feels like we have to be this for everyone. We have to be the best. And it's natural to do this comparison. We haven't evolved past it. Yeah, and then, and I also wanted to say that they're saying, like, young kids have the same mental health problems as celebrities. You know, we all kind of feel famous, but we're not. And then it leads to this, like, comparison and fear that creates so much anxiety and depression. Rates of suicide, obviously, are super high in, like, preteens, which is just heartbreaking. And then we also reach for it out of comfort. You know, it's habitual. We are habituated to, we feel pain, we got to make it go away, you know? And so that's why a lot of my work is around resilience. And I really do believe that denying these habits that are to just make the pain go away is sort of the way to cultivate that resilience. Like, I'm not gonna bullshit you. there's really no trick or secret, you know. You just gotta kind of do it and go through it and feel your discomfort, and see that you can survive it, and that every emotion has a life cycle. It won't kill you. I'm in this great meditation class right now, and Jack Kornfield says, you know, when you start to feel that you'll be overwhelmed by your discomfort and that you'll die of it, then you'll be the first person to ever die of discomfort in a meditation. And it's the same with life. Like when you feel so overwhelmed, like I just can't be here, I can't be present with what is, and you think you're gonna die of it, then you would be the first person to die from phone boundaries or social media boundaries. So just remember that. So that's why we reach for them. You know, it's the same reasons we should reach for self-care and community. You know, there's nothing wrong with boredom, with loneliness, with the need for comfort and the desire, you know, for even entertainment and wonder and learning and having the facts, right? There's nothing wrong with it. And yet it's not an effective solution. Not always, anyway, I should say. And your attention is making billionaires richer. So we have to think about this. So when desire strikes, the desire to reach for your phone or whatever it is for you, maybe it's to flip on Netflix and just veg out for what ends up being 6 hours at a time. I mean, I have been there. Whatever that desire is around technology, or just, you know, check the email one more time, check how many Instagram likes one more time. These are 4 steps I want you to take. So identify your intention is first. Make it conscious. Why are you desiring to grab that phone again? Is it one of the things we talked about? Number 2, get underneath that. Like, what's really going on? Is there an unmet need? You know, do I need to just go for a walk or eat something? Do I need, you know, to call a friend? Which, yes, is grabbing your phone, but that's in a very, like, nourishing context and a belonging and connection outside of comparison context. So get underneath it. Investigate. And then number 3, bring compassion to it, because again, whatever's underneath that desire is not bad or shameful. It's so human, and that's the very reason we're being manipulated. And so turn that shame into compassion. Put your hand on your heart like we did, breathe into it, adopt a mantra, whether it's I'm here, you know, everything's gonna be okay, I love you. And then 4, if you still, after all that, and I mean really go for that compassion piece, if you still wanna grab it, then go for it. Like, don't judge yourself, you know, but maybe set an intention around how you're gonna use it and boundaries around it, okay? So that's my wish for everyone. That's what I'm trying to do, and I don't always succeed, and that's okay. So this is an addiction they're only going to get better and smarter at keeping us hooked on, you know? And it's already, they've gotten so good. Like, look at where things used to be 10, 20 years ago, where they are now. And then think about the future. So we've got to set these boundaries now. We've got to create these habits now. There's no time like the present. So go ahead and grab your journal, because we're gonna do a little intuitive activation and reflection. So think about the last time you went down a phone rabbit hole. Or it could be an email rabbit hole or an entertainment rabbit hole, whatever it is for you. The last time that happened. How did it make you feel? Write that down. How did it make you feel? Maybe when you came out of it and you were back in your body and sort of looked at the clock and realized how much time had gone by. Did you feel more or less well than before you picked up the tech? Chances are you felt worse, right? And then, do you even remember why you picked it up? Like, what was the reason, and did it align with, did your intention align with what ended up happening? I'll give you a moment here. Sorry if I'm going too fast. I'll be sharing these in a blog post later. And, you know, what are some other ways you could have met that need that you were having? Maybe it was loneliness. So what else could you have done? You know, because I think so often we do it to keep ourselves company. It's very compassionate, but what are some other solutions? Or ways to be with the loneliness? We don't have to solve it. We can get curious and compassionate about it. Definitely got to get vulnerable. And then what could have helped you put it down more readily? If something had happened, if you had already made the decision to pick it up, what would have helped you put it down more readily? It's the last thing to reflect on for now. Maybe it would have taken like an act of God for you to put it down. Maybe it would have taken a loved one walking in and being like, hey, what are you doing? You know? What could have helped? And then when you're done, just bring a hand to the heart again, breathe in some self-compassion. Even just reflecting on this memory can be a bit grief-inducing. It's a bit sad. You can just say, like, you know, I'm sorry. If there's something you're sorry for, maybe it's being out of alignment with what you value or with what ultimately felt the best. Without judging, just bringing that compassion. Take some deep breaths. And now we move into our plan. So we have to remember, you know, why we're doing this. That's what that first reflection was about. Why boundaries matter. You know, because we want to feel good. In the long term, we want to feel good, not just in the short term, not just in the ways that end up making us feel more numb, you know, more disconnected. I invite you, even as you reflect on the fears that come up when you think about setting some of these boundaries or like getting off social media completely, reflect on like what beliefs are operating. Because for me, it was like, well, if I get off social media, then I will lose all these connections with people I've met from many different walks of life, from my hometown, through college, study abroad, you know, grad school, my life in New York, my life in DC, my life now in New Mexico, and we'll be moving again. And it's like, am I going to lose these threads? And then because I'm a coach, I'm like, well, get under that belief. And what's the truth of it is I'm not connected to them just because I have a social media account. I don't actually connect. I see pictures of their babies and their food, but that's not real connection. That's not authentic community. My inner circle has gotten smaller and smaller even though this perceived community is so big and full of thousands of people, in reality, there's only a couple people that I would call just, when I'm feeling lonely, and that's not okay with me. That disconnect doesn't feel authentic for someone who's passionate about revillaging and building the community. So moving into the plan, number one, imagine the life you want. If you have a future self practice, you can bring her in here. You can close your eyes if it helps, or just keep the pen on the page. How much screen time is in this life that you want for yourself? Like, what's reasonable? You can ask your future self, like, how much time are you spending scrolling through Instagram? Mine says none. Yeah, I'll bet it's less than you currently do. And then the next question to reflect on is, whether or not you have children, how much screen time would you want for them? Like, we don't even have kids yet, but this film made me just really fear for them. And it made me sad because I think there's an expectation, like, well, all their friends have it, so that we don't want them to feel left out. But it's like, they're going to feel left out because they have it. And it's a deep fear of, like, will they belong? Will they feel lonely if they don't have it? It's a catch-22 kind of feeling. How much would be reasonable for your children? And then, how much screen time would your children or your pets or, anyone whose presence, who values your presence the most? Like, for me, it's Luna. Like, she just wants me. Like, she values my presence more than any other being on this earth. That's all she asks for. It's my awareness, my presence. How much would they want you to have? And of course it's just an exercise, probably zero, probably none, but just to kind of bring in that perspective. Those who value your precious life and your presence and awareness the most, we should account for them when we're figuring this out, I think. So once you've written all these down, these amounts, reflect on them, look at them, and come up with your new limit. Like, you can write on your page phone, TV, work, meaning like your work devices if you have a work phone or work laptop, email, news, and I would definitely invite you to write down notifications and reachability, just going down the list. And then go down each of these categories and just take some notes on how many times a day it's reasonable to check these things. The phone, the email, the news, especially social media, which is probably related to phone, but however you want to word it. And then, how many times do you really need to check them throughout the day? What would be the practical implications? And what would feel best for you? For me, and I'll talk about my phone schedule, we're going to do that next. TV, I do not allow myself to watch more than 3 shows a day, which they're usually 30 minutes, or a movie and 1 short show. That would be my max. My email, I only check it in the mornings, at lunch, and at the end of the day. 3 times. For the news, I only check it once a day, at lunch. I'd even encourage you here to think about other apps that you might use frequently, like podcast apps or music apps. Because even though you might think like, well, these aren't social media, it's really nourishing and enriching my life, and maybe it is, like I love my podcast, but I'm starting to notice it's making it harder for me to be with the silence when I have to have something going to keep me company. And I'll be like, what's that about? So I'm even starting to consider limits for those apps as well. Like it says, my dog will literally stick his face in front of my phone to put attention. Yes! Someone I know, her daughter takes her phone and she says, no, mommy. So, yeah, these little beings, they're pretty wise. And then when it comes to notifications and reachability, I want you to reflect on what do you need notifications for, whether it's your phone or your desktop. Like I only get notifications now for texts, calls, my alarm clock, and I think that's it. Yeah, I turned off all other notifications, which was so empowering. And then reachability. And if you don't get to it now, that's okay. But reachability, like I want you to reflect on that as just a word. Because I think a lot of us have a deep-seated fear that the moment we're unreachable, the worst is going to happen. And it doesn't. And even if it did, to be honest, how could you really help? People back in the day weren't reachable 24/7. And I'm sure that they felt a lot more well in some ways, mentally and like spiritually as a result. So I've recently started really playing with Do Not Disturb and airplane mode for large chunks of the day, like for most of the day. And what I found was I wasn't missing anything. People weren't like frantically trying to get a hold of me. And that actually the reachability was more about me wanting to have that door open for connection, which is really sweet and precious. And now I'm in this space where I'm like, if I value that, then it's on me. It's on me to reach out. I don't need to be reachable. Claire says, yeah, my 7-month-old daughter swatted at my phone when I was looking at it instead of her. Yes, yes. Wow. And then after this, I want you to reflect on new beliefs around technology you'd like to set, new mantras. Like I created one, disconnection feels good. I am allowed to unplug. It's okay to be unreachable. So I want you to think about a phone schedule next. And I know we don't have much time, but on a sheet of paper in your journal, this was seriously the best thing I did ever, like for my tech boundaries. I want you to create 3 columns. At the top of the first one, it's when I am. The top of the second one, my phone is. And the top of the third one is just mode. So for example, in the different columns, you're gonna break it down every daily routine that you do. So for example, when I'm asleep, my phone is on the dining room table and the mode is do not disturb. So when I'm here, my phone is here and this is the mode it's in. It could be do not disturb, it could be airplane mode, it could be off, whatever works for you. Ariana Huffington started creating little beds for phones. You should Google this, it's genius. You can actually charge your phone in a little bed at night in the off mode in a special little place outside of the bedroom. And it just is a reminder that, I can put my mind to bed. I can put my reachability to bed. I can put my constant over-connecting desires to bed. So that's what I would do, and then go through the day. When I wake up, this is what's going on. When I self-care, a lot of people have developed a great habit of not checking their phone at all until their self-care morning routine is over. And for those of us cultivating a meditation habit, it is like the single best thing for that, because the minute you look at that social media notification or that email, it is that much harder. It is exponentially harder to get into a meditation state. And so often we're just likely to give up. Someone said on the film, do you check your phone in the morning before you pee or while you're peeing? Because those are the only two options. Like, it's so sad. And so I now have a very firm morning routine, and that's actually when I have the most structure. So, and I just ordered my alarm clock, so the phone is going out of the bedroom completely for me, and it's gonna be on the table, like I said, and then it's gonna stay in do not disturb mode and in airplane mode until after I meditate. And the reason I keep it on is because I use it for pre-downloaded mindful podcasts that I listen to when I walk my dog in the morning. So I haven't broken that habit, and I really do love it. And sometimes I will use my phone for my meditation app in the morning. But to have it already in do not disturb and in airplane mode is like the sweetest boundary that I do every night. And I even have an alarm that goes off when it's time to set the boundary. And it feels so good. So I encourage you, create a schedule for your phone. What are the times throughout the day that you use the different apps? I encourage you to download Moment, which is a really good app for coaching you through your screen usage for problematic apps specifically. It will actually say, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then in the evenings, carving out real time where, like, I don't even bring my phone on the couch anymore. When I watch TV, I just watch TV. And I can connect with my husband so much more readily as a result. So think about all of these things. And sorry, I can't get to all of the chat right this moment. But start to think about physical boundaries where the phone won't go, time boundaries, how long, and just bringing intention to it. And then, setting real tech detox like retreats throughout the year. So maybe once a quarter, but can you spend a weekend without your phone? Can you go somewhere like a cabin, get away from it all? But, tell your mom, tell your loved ones. But yeah, can you set those regular vacations from your tech? And I've noticed, so I don't even let my phone in my office anymore when I'm working, unless it's a work-related function, and then I put it back on the dining room table where it lives. They say you should put it in a place out of sight, because even just seeing it, when it's in our eye line, it actually affects social, like who's in the room and how we talk to them. It affects our brain, like how we think and how productive we are, just to have it in our eye line. And I think even beyond that, just to know it's in the room also affects our productivity and our focus. So, and I've noticed it'll sneak back in here. I'll be like, wait a second, and I'll have to go take it back out. But anyway, I'm gonna share this in a longer form blog post soon with all of you if you're on my mailing list. I want to keep having this conversation, but I want to not miss this opportunity to share with you about Resilient. So Resilient is my free 5-day challenge starting on November 2nd. You are the first ones to hear about this 5-day challenge. And yes, I designed it for election week. I, like many of us, have been feeling very anxious and very stressed, and enough is enough. And the more I talk to people about the pandemic, the more I hear this desire to use this time, this crazy ass time, to build inner strength, to cultivate true self-care skills and habits and practices, to learn how to weave community, and to become more resilient. And so if you were in How Much Can You Love Yourself, it's going to be very similar, but only 5 days. And each day there's going to be an actual challenge. And yes, one day we're going to talk about tech boundaries, and we're going to go even deeper on this topic, as well as setting boundaries with work, setting boundaries with people, setting boundaries with addiction, with anything that sucks our energy and our time away from our values, our pleasure, and our presence. So you can go to limitlessleanings.com and navigate to events, where you will see a link to sign up for Resilient. And tomorrow it's all going out in my email blast. But I was excited to share it with the SelfLove Sermon community tonight first. It's going to be so much fun. We're going to have self-compassion meditation practices daily with it. We're going to have community calls. We're going to have Facebook trainings or Instagram trainings. I'll get my microphone working again. It'll be great. We're going to do a lot of journaling and like actual practical planning. How do we put these things in place so we can be more resilient and live lives of presence and intention and authenticity? And it all really stems from the same place, which is what we're talking about tonight. Like, we want to set these firm boundaries so that we can prioritize and uplift what really matters to us in this life. And I think for all of us here, that's self-love. So sign up for Resilient November 2nd. I'm so excited. And also next Thursday, October 22nd at noon Eastern, I'll be answering questions about Resilient, and I'm doing a free 1-hour training on creating a self-care habit that you love. So it's called Chore to Craving. You can also sign up at luminousleanings.com under events, and we're gonna have a really fun hour together. It's gonna be like a brown bag lunch situation. Remember those? We're gonna practice a meditation, but mostly it's gonna be like, get your notebook, because I'm gonna be teaching. I love teaching on this stuff. So those are my 2 upcoming free offerings. I'm so excited. Hope to see you there, dear ones. Thank you for practicing with me tonight. Let's just have one final moment of presence. Closing the eyes, feeling the body again. Deep breaths. Just letting everything kind of settle. We covered a lot. You are not alone. Everything you're going through, someone else is going through, and is just a mirror into the human experience and an opportunity to have compassion, because you didn't ask for this. So love yourself. You are worthy. Gonna get to some of these comments. Yes, Claire. Yes, Micah. Micah says, great lessons from dogs and babies about advocating for yourself, asking for what you need. Oh, Claire says, my screen time has skyrocketed during the pandemic. It's how I work and connect with others outside the house. I want to reduce it again for the children's sake. Yes, Claire, absolutely. Micah, the foam bed sounds adorable. I've been doing the same during quarantine. Social media has been how I feel connected. I realize I could be doing this more in more authentic, intentional ways. It also gives me an outlet when I just feel like I need something to look at or do with my hands rather than being present. Oh my God, absolutely. Absolutely, Micah. Yes. I mean, that's the thing. If it's around, we're going to reach for it. And when you start putting it in a designated place for designated hours, you will still reach for it, but it won't be there. And you can rewire your brain this way. The brain is plastic. The brain can change. So I encourage you to play with these. Let me know. I would love to hear how it goes. I mean, you're the only ones I'm talking to about this, so I need community around it too. And to know that I'm not alone in my new tech boundaries. And watch Social Dilemma. Let me know what you think. But maybe don't watch it on a Sunday night right before bed. You know? Maybe take some precautions there that I wish I had taken. All right, precious ones, sending you my love, sending you rest and nourishment for the evening, and I'll talk to you next week. Okay, and sign up for Tour to Craving and Resilient. Bye.